It means that after the zich. Yeah. 400. Past the 400 mark. So, what percentage is that? It's about a fifth, no? Yeah, almost a fifth. Almost a fifth.
It's 2,200.
We're going to make sure to unmute yourself.
Oh, good evening, Ben. Good evening, Yehuda. Am I muted? I'm not muted.
No. We can hear you loud and clear.
At least seems to be staying at home tonight. Cold.
Cold, yeah.
Right. We're up to Daf Kli with Aleph. 11 lines from the top, as Chaim points out. Is it 11? Okay. And we'd continue with the discussion that we began yesterday, which is like this. If Klal Yisrael Otomi, if the majority are Otomi, we do Pesach Rishon B'Tumah. If the minority are Otomi, they do Pesach Sheni, we do Pesach. They do Pesach Sheni B'Tah. And now what we're going to discuss is different scenarios. We had a few yesterday where there's only one more shavet. The more continues in this topic. Itma. 11 lines down. If they're half and half. Omar Rav, what Rav says. What would Rav say? What did Rav say? Anybody want to suggest? Very good. Each one, we split that azar down the middle, the half. And says, Rav, no, we make one of them Tommy through a sheretz. We take one of them, we force him to become Tommy. What do you mean? That's not what you said yesterday. You should make half Tommy, half one side of the azar, the other side of the azar, like you told us. Omri answers the Gemara, we're talking about when there's one person more Tommy. 100,000 Yidam, 50,000 on one Tommy, 49,999 Otoy. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, that there's one more than Tommy than the Toy, so what is it? It's Voiv. So the majority of the Maisa Tommy, so everybody should do Tumah. Why in the world should we change our minds? If Voiv or Tommy, let's do Voiv or Tommy. Answers one is not enough to consider it a majority. Does anybody remember we learned out from which pasuk? Which pasuk do we learn it from? Echad tells us that for one more Tomei, we do not change the status of Klal Yisrael. We have it with this week's parsha where for one person says Yechayev for Dinah Misa, we don't do it. Says the Gemara, if we're going like Rosman Maseh, and we're talking about what is exactly one more Tomei than Torah, Hodo Kushon Neduchte, the Kasha comes back to its original place. Now, so let's split that Azor into half. Again, Rav told us yesterday if there's 50-50, what do we do? Split that Azor in half. Today he tells us we take one person, Tomei, and then everybody's together. That's right. We force one person to Tomei, we don't make it Mechitza, we make everybody together. Furthermore, I don't understand your logic. Yesterday he said, so the more first suggests, maybe we're going like Rosman Maseh. But if you go like Rosman Maseh, where the one person is not Machriya the Tzibur, so we're back to square one, that we should say that it's 50-50, so split the Mesa. Hello, Hochi Kaba. If there's a Tana that holds like the Tana Kama, that when it's 50-50, we don't follow anybody, we split it. Again, if you hold of the 2 points being that we hate the idea of splitting the Azor. Why do we hate the idea of splitting the Azor? We mentioned it yesterday, Rashi over here talks about period. Gnaya Dova, Rashi says, it's not a geschmack thing that people should be making sure not to go next to another Yid. So if you have that shitta, then you can't split the Azor. And you hold that by 50-50, we do not follow one half more than the other. So what we're going to do? So we have no choice but to make one person Tomei, and then that is enough to make it a majority. Now it's very interesting. One small point is like this. We know there are three main categories of Tumah. Tumas Zavad, etc., which is Tumas Keri, which comes from a discharge. Tumas Tmei Mace, where you touch a dead person, Tumas Sheretz. When the Torah says the halacha that Tumah Hoto B'tzibur, that Tomei person is allowed to be, they've cried Solo Tomei, which one of those three was the Torah really talking about? Tumas Mace. How do you know? Because the Poskas and Pashas Ba'al Yisroel. But what happened was, there were people who were Tmei Mace, and they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, we can't bring Pesach Rishon. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, okay, you're the minority, you wait Pesach Sheni. But if you'd be the majority, it would allow you, because it says ish with the Yisod, if one person, etc. Everybody agrees that Tumah Zov, we don't say Tumah Hotu B'tzibur. Let's, for argument's sake, the majority of Klal would be Zov and no Zov. What would we do? No, we don't do it with Tumah. We don't do it with Tumah. That's a special halach. We do not do it with Tumah. We wait for them to become Torah. So the minority do it with Tahara the first. Now, what about Tumas Sheretz, which is in between? Is it like Tumas Mace or is it like Tumas Zov? What would you say? In that what?
You can do it because it's only Twillion, no? Because it's Twillion.
So is Tumas Zov is Tumas Zov is also Tumas Keri is also Twillion. Not always, but many times it can be a Twillion. I hear what you're saying. You're saying a good argument. But it's not strong enough because many times by Keri it's one day, and we still say we don't say Tumah Hotu B'tzibur.
Maybe it could be that Tumas Sheretz isn't so strong Tumah like the rest of them.
But Tumas by Kabbalah Keri is not such a strong Tumah. Tumas by Keri, all he has to do is teva, wait for Nacht and his toys. So it's not much worse than Tumas Sheretz. So you're right that from this Gemara it is muchach that Tumas Sheretz like Tumas Mace. Because what did they say to him? Make him Tomei B'Sheretz. And then you've got Voiv that Sibor's Tomei, and then what we do is go after the Voiv.
Maybe only the one person. You don't want to make him a severe tumor. So
yes, but we want then, by making him Tomei, to do what? That the majority of Klal Yisrael are Tomei, and then the rest of Klal Yisrael will do a Tumah. If you hold it to show it's like Tumah Zov, we'll see later that doesn't really help you. But the strange thing is, it's a Machlekes Rishonim. And the case of Mishnah and Mishnah all get very involved. From our Gemara, it says Muchach that is like Tmei Mace. Again, you've got Tmei Mace is definitely Tumah B'tzibur. Tumah Zov, definitely we don't say Tumah B'tzibur. Tumah Sheretz Machlekes Rishonim. There are a few Gemaras, and this is one of them, where it comes out that Tumah Sheretz seems to be like Tumah Mace, that it is Tumah B'tzibur. Okay. In that we say Tumah B'tzibur. The Tumah Sheretz. But Tumah Zov, we don't say Tumah B'tzibur.
But based on why do we base?
The answer is because it's not Tumah which is a discharge, it's a Tumah which is a touching Tumah. Tumas Mace is a Tumah from elsewhere. So therefore, we compare it to Tumas Mace, just like the Torah says that Tumas Mace, Tumah B'tzibur, so Tumah Sheretz. It's outside. V'ula Omar, we're up to Ula, he says, we send one of them packing. Again, you've got 100,000 Yidden, 50,000 of them Tomei, 50,000 of them Tohoi. We send one of them away. Who do we send? One of the Tohivim. Why? Why do you send one of the Tohivim? What?
You can do it.
But if you send one of the with Tmeim, you'd have one Tahara, and then you just do the Pesach Rishon B'Tahara. Why would you send one of the Tmeim better? One of the Tmeim better than one of the Tmeim? Again,
they'll lose out.
Who will lose out?
Tmeim.
There you go. That's what Tosfos says. Just discussed up Tosfos. As the question is, why is that better? And so you're right. That is why. That's what we do. So you've got 100,000 Yidden, 50,000 Torah, 50,000 Tomei. We send one of the Tohivim away. We send him packing. Does anybody remember? We discussed it yesterday. When do we do the count? No.
From Erev Pesach.
Erev Pesach morning.
In the morning till Chatzos.
Till Chatzos. Very good. So the Erev Pesach morning, we wake up in the morning. Oh, asks the Gemara. Very good. V'tabedi v'sheretz. Instead of saying the packing, make him Tomei. Answers the Gemara, which is a bit like Eli. Eli, how do you call yourself? Eli. Just one name. Eli, what?
No,
okay, Eli. Pointed out that vitamin b'sheretz doesn't really work. Why? Because so shichtim zirkin at tmei sheretz. We have a big machlekas. Do we do shchita on the tmei sheretz? But it's a very serious machlekas. We're going to have a few times. Let's get it clear. A person who's a tmei sheretz, let's say an Erev Pesach afternoon, I'm dead excited to bring my Korban Pesach, and an hour before I walk into the Beis Hamikdash, I by mistake put my hand into a bush, Rabbi touched a dead sheretz. I'm devastated. Can't go on Pesach. There's a big machlikas coming between the Korban Pesach. Why? I will tell you, and by the time it comes to the time of the eating of the Korban Pesach, I'll be allowed to eat the Korban Pesach. So what's my problem? That I can't shecht the Korban Pesach. I know you don't shecht. I'll give it to the kohen or a friend to shecht, and there's somebody else. So do we do shechita? That means the question is, b'shas shechita am tom, b'shas achina am tom.
When he did the count, it was counted as
Yeah.
counted in the morning.
Yeah, counted in the morning hours time. Right. So what's the question? You've got 50,000 to 50,000 Tommy. What does Allah say? Send on the Torah packing out of town. Think the Gemara, why do you send him packing? Just make him Tommy. Says the Gemara, you can't make him Tommy because making him Tommy won't make a difference. Because making him Tommy, he'll still be counted. That's what you meant to say. He'll still be counted as a Torah. And then the Achila, and then you still got 50-50. It doesn't help you. Says the Gemara, okay, I've got to find a dead body, make him touch a dead body, and then what will happen? The Achila won't be betal, then he'll definitely be considered Tommy. Nobody argues by a mace whether we shecht for Tmei mace. Why does nobody argue by Tmei mace? Because he can't be told by that act. It says it Tmei by mace. What? What do you say?
How would this work? You can't make someone.
That's what Vav said before. You make somebody dafka Tommy. You take. You can. Why not? No, in the Chatchila, we don't want people to become Tommy, but here we've got no choice. He says, reason we don't make him Tommy by a mace, he will not be able to bring his Kohen Chagiga. There's a special mitzvah on the 15th of Nisan to bring a Kohen Chagiga. If we make him touch a dead body, he will not be able to bring a Kohen Chagiga. Says by sending him packing by sending him out of town, make him lose the Kohen Pesach. Says, well, no, that's not a problem. Esha the Ovid B'Sheni. He'll bring Pesach Sheni. Says the Gemara, Beis Nami Esha Ovid B'Shvi Davle Shmini Shaloi. The halacha is like this: you're allowed to bring the Chagigas Chabishah, so you've got 7 days to bring it. If you make him Tomei on Erev Pesach, what will his 7th day be? The 6th of Pesach. So on the 6th of Pesach, he'll already be told. So he can bring the next morning. The next morning he'll bring his Chagiga. So just like you say, if you send him packing. I'm not so concerned why it'll be Pesach Sheni. The same thing, I'm not so concerned making to mace, so it'll bring the Chagig on the 7th. Answers the Gemara, Kasava Ula, Kulu Tashlumin Divisioning. The Chagig of the whole Pesach is in place of the Chagig of the first day. The Chazi Bevishin, Chazi Bekulu, Chazi Bevishin, Chazi Bekulu. If on the first day you can't bring it because it's a Tmei mace, you can't bring it on the 7th day. Because the 7th day is Tashlumin for the first day. So therefore, you can't make him Tomei. So again, let's go very slowly. According to Rabbi, if it's 50-50, we make one person Tomei. According to Ola, we send one person packing. Why do we send him packing, not make him Tomei? Answer. If you make him Tomei Sheretz is not good enough because he's still toy for the night. Elamai, you have to make it Tmei mace. Tmei mace is no good because we're better with Chagiga. Asks, we're better with Korban Pesach. What says this? We're big Korban Pesach, Pesach Sheni. What about Chagiga? Chagiga, we're better to pick. There's a lot of discussions on this Gemara. A couple of things I want to say like this. One is to ask the Kasha, he had went between Chagiga. Why? If you send him packing, then he will be out of town the first day Pesach. So you're coming as Chagiga first day Pesach. And we're going on the shitta that now that all the days of Pesach is Tashlumin for the first. If it's all Tashlumin for the first, so again you won't be able to bring Chagiga. Because he's out of town on the first day of Pesach. This gives two interesting answers. One is that he'll be out of town, he'll start walking back and he'll get back into town in time for the first day. What? In time for the first day. Alternatively, he says, being out of town is only a problem with Du'abon, because Tchum is Du'abon. So therefore, since Min HaTeirah, he could get back on Yom Tov, so therefore he has Tashlum in the other days. There's a very interesting shaila, and actually, I was once asked this shaila. I was sitting in the Beis based in. There was a break between a get. So Hilvard walked in, and that week someone had been nifta on Shabbos, and the person phoned up lunch the base of the following shaila. It's interesting that mamish. What happened was he was an oinen b'shas havdalah. Was oinen, so he couldn't do havdalah. Then they buried Sunday morning. He wanted to know should he do havdalah on Sunday afternoon because of the havdalah, which he never did. The halacha is if you miss havdalah on Shabbos, you can do it every day till Tuesday. He was a chayav on Shabbos. I didn't know that. So I quickly found the Shabbat eventually. And they mentioned this Gemara that you can only do Tashlumin on the 7th day Chagiga if on the first day you could have bought it. You didn't bring it the 3rd day, 4th day, 7th day. But if you can't bring it the first day, so how can you do Tashlumin? It's very hard, this question. We should probably to Machlokas. Yeah,
It's not Machlokas, it's not so pushable.
yeah, it's Machlokas. We're saying according to the Shitta, the Chagigas. So that is a few questions. It's another few questions.
The Rav and Ola argue fundamentally about whether the Sheretz is enough.
Oh, that's right. That is the Machlokas. Very good. According to Rabbi, making some Sheretz is good enough. Right. So he's got other questions. Why can't you send the carbon when you're talking? Okay, we'll leave it. One final discussion on this discussion. Man says, who's going to listen to him? The Okasiche, that's the pegs, Umashkin his tent. Who's going to listen on Erev Pesach to Ula to run out of town? I saw a very beautiful point. A few people putting this out. Why does he have to run out of town? Why can't he walk out of town? There's a very big machlokas. Who is potter from Korban Pesach? Is it somebody that's not in the Azor? Maskupas Azor. Derech HaChoyka. Rashi Lator says Derech HaChoyka, the dot of Derech HaChoyka, to tell you that if he's just standing one step away from the Azor, he's far away. He's potter from Pesach Rishon, brings Pesach Sheni. That's one shitta. The other shitta is 15 mil. 15 mil is 30,000 amos. 30,000 amos is approximately 15 kilometers, right? 15 kilometers, right? How long does it take you to walk 15 kilometers, Rabbi say? Salad, how long does it take you to, you ride in Holland, so it's very easy. How long does it take you to walk 15 kilometers?
3 hours.
Wow, you're a fast walker.
No, you
That's
can
50
can run it in about an hour and 10.
5 kilometers an hour.
2 hours, 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
Says the Gemara, says the when you heard the numbers, that when do we do this polling? On the morning of the 14th. Where does he have to be by Chatzois? Ula Pascha's out of 15 mil. So he's going to have to run because he says walking, he won't get out of town from the morning by the time you finish counting everything else to be out of 15 mil in time for the Korban Pesach. Yeah, so that's what he says. Nobody's going to listen to run out of town to be out of the area in time for Pesach. What? And he'd be back for the night for Chagiga. Okay. Another question. Now we're going to have more scenarios. It's slightly complicated, but if you get the foundations, you get it quite clear. Itma. So we made I have to tell you this. My wife got a phone call from the Labour candidate for Manchester since this election soon. My wife, I said it's good that she answered the phone. Anyway, she was a bit busy. And we said to her, "Are you happy with the government? I'm a Labour candidate." She said, "Yes, I'm thrilled. Boris Johnson is a really good Prime Minister. Labour must be very proud." My wife thought Boris Johnson was the Labour Prime Minister. I said to her, like, she's a woman in the water. So she said, "We're going to vote for." I said, "I've got years to think about this." You know, anyway, nice. So get some people are not so into the. I said, with all that political knowledge that you have, I think you should run for Prime Minister yourself. The kids said, we do this polling on Erev Pesach, and everybody's busy counting, and we find out, unfortunately, Voivo Kreisel or Zovin. Now, what did we say about Zovin? To what would not to what not. Umiyuton to be Mesim, and let's say 40% is to be Mesim. Omara. Oisan to be Mesim and Oisim lo Vishen lo Besheni. They can't do Korban Pesach Vishen, and they can't do Korban Pesach Sheni. Vishen lo Yavdi Dave Miyuta. Umiyuta lo Yavdi Vishen. Besheni Nami lo Yavdi. Kolechet Yavdi Sibba Bevishen. Ovid Yochid Besheni. A special principle that when you don't have Pesach Rishon brought correctly, we do not bring Pesach Sheni. And in fact, the Meiri points out nobody will bring Pesach Rishon or Pesach Sheni. Why? The majority of Kaisel are Zovin, the Miot Tmei Mesim. The Zovin, can they bring Pesach Rishon? No, we don't say tomorrow to B'tzibur. Can they bring Pesach Sheni? No, because the halacha is that when you don't bring Pesach Rishon correctly, we don't bring Pesach Sheni. Oh, so why did Rav only talk about the Tmei Mesim? He was telling you a bigger chiddush, that even the Tmei Mesim that normally we say Tumah Hutra B'tzibur, even they will not bring. So nobody that year will bring either of the two Pesachs. Abba is either a term of respect, father, or that was the real name of Rav. We say that Aderes discusses that. The Torah says, "Bring Korban Pesach." We shouldn't say it's big bots of Shmuel. What's it's very nice the Torah says, but Rav's got a fair argument. Who's going to bring the Korban Pesach? You can't. The Tmei Mesim can't because they're mute. The Zavim can't because it's. So they say that when we ignore the Zavim according to Shmuel and we consider the Tmei Mesim to be all of Klal Yisrael, and therefore tomorrow they can bring Pesach Rishon. Okay. So he said, "Omalu Zilu Amulei." Go back to tell Shmuel. Kavakulu Zovin, if everybody in Klal Yisrael is a Zov, my of this day, what would you do? They won't bring Pesach Rishon or Pesach Sheni. That you agree with me. That means everybody agrees if the whole of Klal Yisrael is a Zov, you don't bring Korban Pesach. If everybody in Klal Yisrael, if the Miot is a Zov, and if Rov is a Zov, and Miot Tmei Meisim, that's the Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. A similar question, it's slightly the exact opposite. Itma, or Yehuda Tmei Meisim Miot and Zovin. If most of it Tmei Meisim Miot and Zovin. Here, if we were to be Mason and the Miut Zavin, what we're going to do by Pesach Rishon? What will we do? What will we do? If we were to be Mason, Miut Zavin,
You do it.
you do very good. So you'll bring Pesach Rishon with Tumah. No, they can't because the Tumah don't say Tumah with Tumah. For Zavin can't. It's excluded. The question is, do they bring Pesach Sheni? So the natural argument would be yes, because they brought Pesach Rishon. Now, as I said before, we said if there's no Pesach Rishon, there's no Pesach Sheni. But here there was Pesach Rishon. The problem is the Torah says that when Pesach Rishon is brought and you're toy, those who are Tomish were for Pesach Sheni. But here, those who are toy never brought Pesach Rishon. Those who are Tomei brought Pesach Rishon. So here we have a machloikas when Roiv of Kaisar were Tomei Mesim. And then Miot Zovin do away to Pesach Sheni. So Gemara says, we don't bring Pesach Betumah. That means Pesach Sheni is not brought Betumah with the Zovin. We do. Says God, David Barker Bifliki. The man don't want Tashun Pesach Betumah Ksavatua the Chuya Bitzibbo. Man don't want Tashun Pesach Betumah Ksavatua Hoto Bitzibbo. If you hold to Hoto Bitzibbo, so it's like as if it's Lechatchila. So we're thrilled. The Pesach's brought Betumah. It's as if Pesach was brought B'Tara, we should be very happy. And now the Zovin will bring a Pesach Sheni. Certainly, we are forced to take it in. So therefore, really, the Korban Pesach wasn't brought correctly this year. If it wasn't brought correctly this year, so what's the din? You can't have Zovin. So the machlokas as to whether the Zovin can bring Pesach Sheni is the machlokas. Says the Kulam Chumot to have a mitchia, tumah mitchia. The argument is simply like this. This goes into the drashas. It says the bottom pay on the base, but the very simple meaning is like this. The Torah says that if the cow bring Pesach Rishon, bring Pesach Sheni. We have an argument. This din of the Torah is it also said by tumah when it was pushed away, and therefore the Pesach was brought in an unhappy, in an unperfected, non-perfect way, imperfect way. It's still brought Pesach Sheni or not. That means everybody agrees to word chuya b'tzibur. And therefore, that's why the man says the Zovin can't bring it because it wasn't done correctly. The man says, I don't care that it's what Chubit Tzibur. At the end of the day, the Korban Pesach was bought. Since it was bought, you can bring Pesach Sheni as well. Final question, Itma. Are you shlishton Zovin v'shlishton Tohin v'shlishton Tmei Meisim? A third of Zovin, a third of Torah, a third of Tmei Meisim. So what would you say? Let's see if you can work it out yourself. Erev Pesach, we make a poll. Third. So what are you going to do? Let's think about it. Can you say Tumah Hutzah B'Tzibur over here? You don't have a word. Why don't you have a word? Or 2/3 of Tommy?
Wrong Tumah.
Very good. I'm mamish on it. Right? You don't have Tumah Hutzah B'Tzibur. You agree? You don't have Tumah Hutzah B'Tzibur because you've only got 1/3 to Beis. So what will happen is they will be pushed off to Pesach Sheni. By Pesach Sheni, can they bring Pesach Sheni?
Yeah.
No. Because
Tommy's can bring and then the twins should be able to bring.
no,
Nobody but Rishon.
because then we look the Zovin and the Tahiri, the Zovin and the Tmei Meisim join together to become Roiv for the second Pesach, because by the time it comes second Pesach, the Zovin already torn, and therefore Roiv is never brings Pesach Sheni. Never have a Roiv bring the Pesach Sheni. So nobody, they will not.
Who brings Pesach Rishon also?
The Torah won't be able to bring Pesach Rishon.
Why?
Even though they're a meal.
Doesn't
Because a Miut can bring Pesach Rishon. They can't bring Pesach Rishon. We won't say tomorrow to it. So the Miut or Torah will bring Pesach Rishon. They'll bring on them. Again. It will Shlishon Zav, Shlishon Torah, Shlishon Tmei Meisim, Omar Moni Bapatish, Oisan Tmei Meisim, and Oisan Rishon, Oisan Sheni. And in fact, the Rishonim get point out that not only the Tmei Meisim don't bring, the Zovin also don't bring, but we're saying a bigger chiddush even the Tmei Meisim. But why not? We add the Zovin to the Tahirim, and we say that there's Tmei Mesim or Miyot, because only a third of Tmei Mesim. Umiyot to Leov de Bevishan. A Tame Miyot can be Bevishan. Bishani Leov de Nitzaf is of the Tmei Mesim to Leov de Bevishan. Then we add that third to the Tmei Mesim because the Zovin became toy. And now they became toy. So now who needs to do to Pesach Sheni? Wave of Kalisov. The third that was Tmei Mesim needs to be Pesach Sheni, plus the third that was Zovin needs to be Pesach Sheni. So you've got 2/3 what's be Pesach Sheni. We never bring Pesach Sheni, but we're finished now the second volume of the old school. We're going to the third volume. Chaim. That's not, I can't even tell you it's a new topic. Carrying on with Tumah V'Tal. Says the Mishnah. Ha-Pesach Shenitzak Domon. You did Zvika. Let's talk about this. Pesach afternoon, I'm very excited. I've been like on Pesach. And the Kohen, one of the Kohen, got many Kohen, sprinkle the blood. And suddenly, suddenly we find out that the Korban Pesach or the blood was tummy. Hatzitz meratza, the tzitz makes it okay. And what happens is, I do not need to bring Pesach Sheni. Now, if the bossa is tummy, what will happen? I won't be able to eat it. So I won't actually have anything to eat that night. I can eat chagiga. I won't be able to eat the Korban Pesach. But I've been yoytze my mitzvah, right? If the blood was tummy, I can still carry eating my Korban Pesach. Nitwa aguf. If suddenly I find I became tummy again, that means what happened was between. What do you say? After it was shechted, after the zvika, suddenly you find out, that actually I was tummy. B'shas zvika. Okay, ein hatzitz with the more discussed. Ein hatzitz meratzim peshom one knows the Pesach hatzitz meratzah tumas hadam. It's meratzah on the tumah of the korban of the blood. Tumas haguf over here means the body of the person. Tumas haguf means the body of the person. So again, since it's meratza on the kodshim and not on the makdishim, that's how the Sifri says it. It's a way to remember it. Hatzitz meratza al hakodshim v'lo al makdishim. It's meratza on kodshim korbanos, or not that which is makdish the korbanos. So, for example, an owner who's tamei, the tzitz doesn't help him. So if you find out you're tummy, you will have to bring a Pesach Sheni. Nitva tumas hatahoim atzitz meratza. We're not going to discuss at great length, but very briefly. Tumas hatahoim in simple language is tumas sofit. It's tuma what you do not know. And not only you do not know, but it would be difficult, almost impossible for you to know. And that's why it's called tumas tahoim. Tahoim literally means what? Depths. Very good. If you're walking and underneath the ground there's a dead body, so the tumah is in the depths. Now you are not allowed to become tumah. Kohen is never allowed to go, by the way, over a dead body. But he saw, certainly not when he's bringing his Korban Pesach. Now there's no way for him to have known. It's very difficult for him to have known. So that's called tumas tahoim. It doesn't actually only mean tumas tahoim. If a person becomes tumah, not tumas tahoim, but it's a very, very difficult tumah to find out, that would also be considered tumas tahoim. Because tumas tahoim just means tumah of the depths, meaning tumah which is difficult to know. Only the standard tumah that's difficult to know is a tumah which is hidden underneath the ground. So you're walking around and you don't know that you become tumah underneath the ground. The halacha is the tzitzis meratze even on the owner. So let's say again, if you go to the Rav of the Pesach, you say, look, they sprinkled the blood, and I found out that actually with the Shas Zvika I was tumah. What would you say to him? You're the Rav. What would you say to him? Very, very good. If it was tumas tahoim, meaning that was very, very difficult for him to find out, the more would you say to him? That this is Maratza, what will happen?
Okay.
Is it okay and what? He won't be able to eat his Korban Pesach if he's not toy yet. Let's say how much to do tefillah thing, but he does not need to bring Pesach Shem.
You can eat it eventually.
Well, not really. It's unlike, unless he gets a chance to become toy before that night, he won't be able to eat it. But he won't need to bring Pesach Shem. Well, how would he become toy? It depends. If you walked over a grave, it takes 7 days to become toy. By the time the Korban Pesach will only be eaten that night. So it won't. Not the midst of eating, but he did the Korban Pesach. We mentioned it by the Mishnah that if a person bought the Korban correctly, and then he became tummy, so the way that the Korban became tummy, so he can't eat it. He won't have the chagiga. They can't eat the chagiga because he's tummy, but he eats matzah and wine. But he won't.
Why is that better than if you do a Pesach Sheni if people who can't eat it?
No, because there they couldn't bring the common Pesach. Here he brought the common Pesach. Everything was fine.
No, but I thought it was criteria. You need to be able to eat it. You can't join somebody in who can't.
We said that if you bring it lechatchila in a manner that can't be eaten, fine. That means if it was tummy b'shas shchita, that's a different issue. Here b'shas shchita he was toy. It was only late. Okay. Says the Gemara. No, you can't bring Pesach Sheni. He's not allowed to bring Pesach Sheni. He's not allowed to bring Pesach Sheni. It's actually interesting. And I looked up today. Can a person bring Pesach Sheni in such a case? Because never actually Pesach. No, he's not allowed to bring Pesach Sheni. So good point. Says the Gemara. Tamad nizrak v'akach. Let's go through the Mishnah very carefully. A person shechted the common Pesach. Everything was fine. He did zvika. He thought everything was fine, and then he finds out that everything wasn't fine, and that before Zerika, the blood, let's talk about the blood, it's a simple case, it doesn't have to be the blood, it could be the common itself. The blood was actually Tom. Let's say he finds out that there was a dead shirt that it fell into the blood, the bowl of the blood. It can be medayik, that if you already knew it was Tommy, before you did Zerika, you look in the bowl, you say, hey, there's dead shells inside it. And he said, you know what, I'll do Zrika anyway. It's not Maratza, because that would be a bigger Chiddush. The fact that Mishnah doesn't say that, it's not really, Mishnah doesn't talk about it. But that would be a much bigger Chiddush. When you know that it's stomach, and you went to willingly, unknowingly do it wrong, Alpha PK would be okay. The fact that Mishnah doesn't say that is a right, that's the Uminu. What's the Tzis Maratza for? Aladam, on blood, Bala Bossa, on meat, Bala Chilev, what's Chilev? But here, what do we mean when we say Chilev? The parts that go on the Mizbeach. Chilev is a generic term for Imurim. That's very good. That's another word for the same meaning. Bala Chilev, on fats which go on the Mizbeach. Shenitmo. And it says, Bein b'shoigig, bein b'mezid, bein b'oines, bein b'rotzin, bein b'yochid, bein b'tzibur. So what does this Brisa tell us? That if you know, willingly and knowingly know, that your blood is tummy, and you sprinkle it on the Mizbeach, good or no good? Good. And our Mishnah says, only if you find out after Zrika, but before Zrika, it's no good. The Gemara says two answers. Amar Ravina. When the Brisa says either sugar or mezid, it's referring to when it became tummy. The blood became tummy sugar mezid. The meat became tummy sugar mezid. Then either way, hutza zrikosei b'shogeg. So hutza became hutza, zrikos. Hutza became hutza. Zrikosei b'shogeg hutza, b'mezid lo hutza. There's two aspects over here. You've got the zrika on the korban which is tummy. There's two things we could discuss. Did the korban become tummy b'shogeg or b'mezid? Did the zrika happen b'shogeg or b'mezid? Comes along with a video which we actually pass in like not like the next answer. That regarding the tumor, it makes no difference how it happens. So if you're walking with a cup of blood, you're a kohen, right? You walk with a cup of blood, and on purpose you make it tummy. You take a dead shell, you put it in. And then you sprinkle it by mistake, that's fine. Meaning, what's the by mistake? You thought that there's nothing wrong with it being tummy. But if the sprinkling was b'mezid, meaning you know that it's a stomach and you don't care and you think to yourself, I'm still going to sprinkle it, then it's not maratza. Let's get very clear. The Beis says b'mezid. Either way, it's fine. Our Mishnah says it's not fine. Our Mishnah says only if you find out after Zrika. If you find out before Zrika and knowing that with a full heart you sprinkled it, knowing that it's tummy, it's no good. It's a contradiction. Our Mishnah is mashma only b'shogeg. The Beis says b'mezid. Answer. The Beis is referring to how the blood of the bossa became tummy. That's b'mezid. Our Mishnah is referring to the Zrika. So let's get it very clear. If you're a kohen and you're walking around with a cup of blood and you know that it's tummy, they became tummy b'shogeg. Not your fault. Complete onus. And you sprinkle it b'mezid. What would it then be? Not maratza. Very good. Not maratza. Oh, it says b'mezid. The answer b'mezid is how it became tummy. Not to gabi the zvika. The zvika has to be b'shogeg. If the zvika is b'mezid, if a kohen knows when he's doing zvika that he's doing zvika to tummy blood, will you remember this? You're a kohen. Will you remember this? So when you're doing zvika, make sure that if you're not aware that the blood is tummy, if you're aware that the blood is tummy, you do zvika. Say, I don't care. No, that's no good.
Is the kohen chamak?
That the Rambam says not. As once we argue, so I can't notice a lot of hand. I mean, I noticed the Rambam says not chamak. That's what Mishnah says. He holds that if you do something wrong, you're over on a say, not an loisa say. says the Gemara again. So Ravina says again, we've got our Mishnah says only b'shogeg, because you only found out it became tummy afterwards, but when you became before you never knew, so you're shogeg. The Beis says b'shogeg b'mezid. Answers Ravina, the shogeg b'mezid that it's okay is referring to how it became tummy. The b'shogeg in our Mishnah is referring to this week. Let's do Ravina inside again. Two more so b'shogeg b'mezid hutza, meaning then either way it's hutza if it's because b'shogeg hutza b'mezid hutza. Therefore, the Mishnah is talking about this week. He argues first with Ravina, and then later he explains how it fits into our Mishnah. First, he argues with Ravina completely. He holds that it's nothing to do with the Zvika, it's got to do how it became Tomei. The exact opposite of Ravina. Well, Ravina says that it matters if it's Shegig Mezid, he says that doesn't matter. Well, Ravina says it does matter, so it does matter. So according to Rav Shela, if you do Zvika b'Mezid, it's fine. If you do Zvika b'Shegig, it's fine. As long as what? As long as the tumor became b'shogeg, as long as the way that the meat or the blood became tummy was b'shogeg, I don't care how you did zvika. So Gvor says, "Al-Hadik to the b'shogeg made in the Beis." He says, "B'shogeg made zedachik karama nitma b'shogeg." If it became tummy b'shogeg, v'zolko, and the zvika is b'shogeg made it also. That means when the Beis says b'shogeg made it, it's referring to what? It's referring to the zvika. Before, according to Rabbi, when the Beis says "B'meshig it's referring to what? Chaim, you with me? No.
Not 100%. Not confident to answer.
The Beis earlier when he said "B'meshig according to Rabbi, was referring to how it became tummy according to Rabbi. But the Zvika itself, Rabbi says that only b'shegeg, not b'mezid. So Shila says the exact opposite. When the Beis says "B'meshig is referring to the Zvika, how it became tummy is referring to is only b'shegeg. Says the Gemara. The Mishnah seems to be saying that if you found out before Zvika that it's no good, it's no good. According to Rav Shela, even b'mezid you can do Zvika. The Mishnah wants to conclude that if a person himself becomes tummy, that tzitz is not meratza, there it's even b'shogeg. But what happened was the Shastik he never knew. The Ikech of Mishnah for the Sefer. That if a person becomes tummy, even if at the time of the Zvika he didn't know about it, so with good faith he did Zvika. Nevertheless, since afterwards we find out that he was actually tummy, we retroactively say that the korban is possible. So since the end of the Mishnah wishes to talk about this specific case, where the korban was tummy at the time the person was tummy and he never knew. So therefore, we want to talk about the Mishnah in the same case. So therefore, the only reason the Mishnah talks about a case that you never knew till later is to tell you a bigger chiddush. Had the Mishnah talked about a case where you find out before this week, you would have said, now I know why in the Sefer it's no good, because the person became tummy. He found out he became tummy, and then he does zvika, so that's no good. But had he only found out that he became tummy afterwards, then I would say it's okay. Says the Mishnah, no. Even if you only find out afterwards, if the person himself becomes tummy, it's no good. So therefore, the Mishnah wants to tell us that a chiddush. Since the Mishnah wants to tell us that a chiddush, the Mishnah keeping in that form talks about this first case as well. Okay. Here the Gemara does a strange thing. Rashi on Daf Pe'ala from the Beis asks it as a bit of a question. The Gemara does not ask us till much later, how do we know, where's the source that Tumas HaTahom is okay? Let's go very slowly. The tzitz is meratza. What does that mean, the tzitz is meratza? The tzitz is atones. Atone is not probably the right word. The tzitz is appeases or lets us off, so to speak, even if it's tummy, but only if the korban is tummy, not if the owners are tummy. If the person is tummy, the tzitz is not meratza. Yeah, is that clear? That's quite clear. If a person becomes tummy, say, the tzitz is meratza. No, the tzitz is only meratza if the korban is tummy, not if it's tummy. There's one exception to that. What's the exception? When is if a person tummy, is it okay? Tumas tahoi. Tumas tahoi meaning when the person would have been very, very difficult or impossible for him to have found out that he's tummy, then it is okay, even if the person is tummy, right? The Gemara later will tell us how we know that. Much later, the Gemara will discuss how we know it. The Gemara actually goes to the great length. How do we know such a thing? Before the Gemara discusses how we know it, the Gemara asks, when do we say it? I mean, this is the next discussion. We're going to finish it today. But a big discussion, when do we say Tumas Tahom is okay? That means, the owners, the kohen shechting, other people. When do we say Tumas Toim is a special kula? The special kula, what's the special kula of Tumas Toim? Let's get it very clear. The kula of Tumas Toim is that even when the tzitz is not normally maratza, i.e., when the owner is Tomei, but if the tumah is a Tumas HaTahoim, a tumah of the depths which is hard to have found out, then it's okay. Says the Gemara. Kohen HaMaratza b'Kabbalah said, the Kohen was doing the avodah for many other yidden. Who to do Tumas HaTahoim or loy? Do we say Kikibir Tumas HaTahoim v'Banim? The whole halach of Tumas HaTahoim is only by the owners. There's a special kula. As Rashi points out, first it would be better to work out where the halacha is learned from, and then you could ask the question: does the halacha apply to the owners or also to the kohanim? The Gemara doesn't do that. The Gemara first assumes that you know where we know it from, and then the Gemara says, well, now that you know that Tumas Tahom is okay, is that halacha said only by the owners or also by the kohen? So what would the nafka be? Imagine one of you kohanim, you're working on the Pesach afternoon, and you've done zvika for 1,000 korbanos. Then somebody says to you, what did you do this morning? I went for a walk. Where did you go for a walk? Pesach, I needed a bit of fresh air. I went for a walk round, what's that place down the bottom of Yerushalayim? Lifter. Which path to take that path? Oh, that path. A dead body was buried there yesterday afternoon, and you walked over a dead body, you're a Tommy. Now, the halacha is the tzitz not maratza on people. It's only maratza on korbanos. If the tzitz is not maratza, all 1,000 korbanos he did zvika for, what's the halacha? They all have to drink Pesach Sheni, and none are allowed to eat the korban, and it's all no good. Except over here, what's the kula? It's Tumas Tahom, meaning there was no way the Kohen could have known about it. It's linked to the death. The question is it okay or is it not okay? If the korban would be Tomei, no problem. It's matter. If it's the owners, that means if the owner would have said, I went yesterday for a walk in Nifta, what would you say? Tumas Tahom is okay by the owners. The question is by the Kohen. Tol Shema, the Toli of Chil. The halach of Tumas Tahom is only by mix. That means, if let's say you said I went for a walk in Nifta, and I walked there on that path, and I said to you, that path, you walked over a dead dog, or you walked over a dead sheretz, or you walked over a ziva, you touched a ziva. I say a woman who's a ziva. Now, Tumas Tahom doesn't work. That means we can't say, look, I couldn't have known about it. I'm very, very sorry. How could I have known? No. You're Tomei, and all the korbanos you did was no good. Says the Gemara, Limutei Mai, which one is it coming to exclude? I said a few. Sheretz, Ziva, we'll see. The Gemara eliminates one by one. Lavlit Mutei Tumas Tahom to Sheretz. Pashtus, the most common one would be that you walked over that path, and somebody says to you, do you know there was actually a dead lizard and you stepped on it without realizing it? Says the Gemara, but my Oskinon, what we're talking about? If that Beis, when it says Tumas HaTahom is not a kula, the special kula called Tumas HaTahom, and it doesn't work by other tumas. If we say to other owners, uberman, which owners? Ibn Nozi, Mimahanibe. The halacha is, a Nozi, it doesn't matter if it comes Tomei by a sheretz. A Nozi is allowed to come Tomei from a sheretz. He's not allowed to become Tomei from a dead body. You must remember this very, very clear. A Nozi is somebody who promises not to come Tomei. He's allowed to touch a dead cow, a dead sheretz, a dead dog. He's allowed to touch them all. He's only not allowed one tumah. Which tumah? Tumas mace. So we can't be talking about Nozi because Nozi won't matter if you walked over a sheretz. Elo must be talking about Elo, but it's a Pesach. We're talking about common Pesach. So what happened was somebody went to do a common Pesach. He walked over a certain path. We say to him, I'm very sorry to tell you, mister, but you walked and you touched, you done it, said sheretz. And now you can't be common Pesach. That's okay if you hold you can't shech the common Pesach to make sheretz. We said a few minutes ago, we said earlier at the beginning of the show, that many people hold that there's no problem to much sheretz for shech the common Pesach. Why? Does anybody remember why? Why is there no problem? Because by the time you come to the common Pesach, you'll be okay. So what we said Tumas HaTahom is a special kula, but that kula doesn't exist by who? By other cases, only by Tamei Mace. Which other case does it exist? That means, which other case do we say Tumas HaTahom is awesome? What is it? By Tumas Sheretz. Well, which Tumas Sheretz? If it's a Nazir, who cares? A Nazir is allowed to come to Tumas Sheretz, there's no problem. If it's talking about the owners, who cares? The owner, if it becomes a Tamei Sheretz, will be able to eat the Korban Pesach that night. Elo lab, and I mean, even if he actually stepped on the shells knowingly and purposely, you don't need to come on to time. Even if he purposely stood on the shells, who cares? Elo lab b'koyen. We must be talking about the koyen went for a walk, and we told him, we're very sorry to tell you, you stepped on the shells, and now we say to him that you think that it's okay. Why? Because it's Tumas Tahim. I couldn't have known about it. No. The head of Tumas Tahim is only by Tumas Meis. Is a raya that what? That the whole concept of Tumas Tahim works by Kohen. Because if by Kohen there would be no head of Tumas Tahim, then that would not have come to God. Shmas, we know who Tumas Tahim. And therefore, normally by Kohen, Tumas Tahim does work. By Tumas Sheret, it doesn't work. And that's the Chiddush. There's more Mabis of Loilam Bebali or Pesach. What did Tumas Tahim to Ziva? And what happened was he stepped over a Ziva without realizing. And therefore, we need to tell him, Ziva, if you become Tomei Ziva, how does it take to become toy? Either 7 days or sometimes 24 hours. So 24 full hours. So therefore, it won't work. So therefore, that's what the Chiddush is. I'm going to stop over here because it's a whole new topic. I know it's close to time. But that's okay. We're going to discuss tomorrow Ziva. It's a very interesting Gemara because a lot of these cities of Zova need to. Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah.
I am sure. Okay, thank you.